So before I start this video on what is going to happen to house prices in the UK, if you find it useful at all and you're watching it on YouTube, please make sure you hit that like button and you subscribe to our channel. Now, there is a regularly updated article associated with this video on the Money to the Masses website, which we update regularly. There's a link to that article which you can read in the notes of this video. So if you want a more up-to-date piece of analysis, then make sure you click on that link. But also subscribe to the channel because we do update these videos every month. Now, house prices are determined by a number of factors, and they include the overall health of the economy, interest rates. So the Bank of England sets the base rate every 6 weeks. That has a big influence on mortgage rates and therefore house prices. And of course, supply demand is a big factor that impacts house prices, and that will impact them going forward. So if, for example, there's a big new housing development in an area, then that can have an influence on the prices of local houses. And also if there's new amenities, so new developments in terms of infrastructure, that can have an impact on house prices as well. Now, where we're talking about what's going to happen to house prices in the future, I don't have a crystal ball, but what we can do is gain insight by looking at where house prices have been moving, how they've been moving in recent months. And to do that, I'm going to focus on 4 house price indices. Now, I'm going to kick off with the first one, which is now on screen. You can see the table. That is the UK House Price Index, and it's the most accurate of the various house price indices as it's calculated based on completed sales, both for cash sales and those with a mortgage. The wide-ranging data is sourced from the HM Land Registry and other government sources. However, while it gives a very clear picture of what's going on in the housing market, there is a lag in the data being published. Now, if you look at the data, you can see that in January, the monthly change was a fall of 1.1%. And on an annual basis, that still means house prices have risen by 6.3%. And the average house price, you can see there, is just under £290,000. Now, moving on, the next house price index I want to look at is the Nationwide House Price Index. This is calculated based on Nationwide's own data of mortgage approvals. And economists at Nationwide believe that it will be hard for the market to regain much momentum in the near term as economic headwinds strengthen, with real earnings set to fall even further and the labour market, so that's jobs, widely projected to weaken as the economy shrinks. That could mean job losses. Additionally, high borrowing costs are impacting affordability. That means that borrowing costs in terms of mortgage rates have been going up, and that's at the same time that inflation is taking its toll on household finances. Now, if you look at the index, you can see that there's been a fall in March of 0.8%. That comes on the back of another fall in February. It means the annual change is minus 3.1%. And you can see that the average house price there is £257,000. Next up, we've got the Halifax House Price Index. And this is calculated from Halifax's own database of approximately 300,000 mortgage approvals. So you've got that on screen. You can see that that actually registers an increase of 0.8% in March 2023 with an annual increase of 1.6%. And again, the house price is around about, the average house price, I should say, is about £287,000. You can pause this video if you need to and look at the tables in more detail, but the full tables are in that article that I mentioned earlier that's in the show notes of this video. So the final index I'm going to look at in this video is the Rightmove House Price Index. Now, the other indices I've mentioned are based on mortgage approvals or completed sales data. The difference is the Rightmove House Price Index looks at the average asking price for properties that are listed on the Rightmove portal. Now, it's a good reflection or indication of sellers' confidence, but it doesn't really demonstrate how many of the properties that are listed on that site end up going under offer and possibly offer at much lower prices. And it doesn't even tell you, for example, how much or even if they sell at all. So it's a slightly different index, but it is still interesting nonetheless. And if you look at the data, it shows that there's been a slight increase in March of 0.8%. That's March 2023, taking the annual change in house prices to 3%. So that gives you an indication of what's been going on with house prices. If you look at each of those tables, pause the video, go back, you can see how the change has been happening month to month. So the next question really is, where are house prices headed next? Now, the Bank of England base rate currently sits at 4.25%, and obviously that influences mortgage rates. Now, the Bank of England is not scheduled to meet again until the 11th of May 2023 to decide upon the base rate, whether it stays the same, goes up or goes down. Now, it's projected that base rate will hit 4.6% by the summer of 2023, and it's likely to mean the average 2-year fixed rate mortgage could still be around 5%. So as well as rising interest rates that are starting to have an impact on the housing market, because if rates tend to go up, it tends to put a bit of a dampener on house price rises. Lending criteria is being tightened by mortgage lenders as well. Also, stress testing mortgage applications has been tougher with higher assumed interest rates. So all in all, that puts potentially some downward pressure on the property market. Now, if you go back to 1992, the average house price fell about 20% following a rapid rise in the Bank of England base rate. And also bear in mind that we've got something like that now, but also the cost of living crisis will likely mean more people will be failing affordability assessments by lenders going forward. So it's not potentially good news for the housing market. You'll see lots of probably articles that are very doom and gloomy, but we'll have to wait and see what happens going forward. So you can keep an eye on some of these indices that I've mentioned and the updated videos that I do on this topic. But if you want to know how much your property is actually worth, well, it depends on local factors, and the best way to find out is to use sites like Rightmove and Zoopla, where they can give you estimates of what your house might be worth based on recent sales history. And of course, if you really want to know, then you can get an estate agent round or 3 to look at your property, because at least then you could take the average of those assessments. So if you've enjoyed this video, you found it useful at all, make sure you hit that like button, but also subscribe to our channel.